was a cold afternoon in Los Angeles. Keanu Reeves, as usual, was walking alone through the streets, trying to escape the noise of fame and find a bit of peace in anonymity. He wore a worn leather jacket, simple jeans, and a faded cap, practically invisible to most people. Keanu had always been known for his humility, but that day, fate had something unexpected in store. As he walked distractedly, he saw a man sitting on the sidewalk, wrapped in a thin blanket, holding a small handmade. "Dunaki just need a coffee and a little dignity." That touched Keanu. He stopped, watched for a few seconds, and something made him approach. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, in a calm, almost shy tone. The man slowly lifted his eyes, surprised that someone had noticed his presence. He had unshaven facial hair, disheveled hair, and a tired look. But there was something intense in his expression. "Just trying to survive, my friend." The man replied with a weak smile, as if he had already given up on expecting something better. Keanu hesitated for a moment, then took some dollars from his pocket and handed them over. But he realized it wasn't enough. He looked around, saw a cafe across the street, and without thinking twice said, "Come with me." The man was confused but got up. They crossed the street together, and Keanu opened the cafe door, as if it were the most natural gesture in the world. He ordered 2 coffees and some sandwiches, sat at a table, and invited the man to join him. The people in the cafe looked discreetly, some whispered, but Keanu seemed oblivious to it all. He was focused on that conversation, that moment. For him, there was no difference between being a movie star or a common man helping another human being. What Keanu didn't know, however, was that the man on the sidewalk was not just any homeless person. He was hiding a secret that would soon completely change the course of that story. As the aroma of fresh coffee spread through the air, Keanu and the man began to talk. Keanu asked his name, and he replied almost automatically, "You can call me Mike." Keanu noticed that, despite his worn appearance, Mike had a way of speaking that was different, as if he chose each word carefully. He had a calm presence, but a deep sadness hidden in his eyes. "How did you end up here?" Keanu asked, genuinely interested. Mike sighed, looked out the window, and began to tell his story. He spoke of a company he lost, of investments that went wrong, of people who disappeared when the money ran out. But he didn't go into details. Keanu listened attentively, taking sips of coffee, as if he were in front of an old friend. The conversation flowed naturally, as if time had slowed down. At one point, Mike looked at Keanu with a penetrating gaze and asked, "And you? Why are you sitting here, having coffee with a guy like me?" Keanu smiled slightly and replied, "Because no one should feel invisible. Everyone deserves to be heard." These words hung in the air, lingering between them, while the noise of the coffee shop continued in the background. Keanu didn't know, but that simple act of sitting and listening was planting a seed that would change both of their destinies. When they finished, Keanu placed enough money on the table to cover the bill and a little extra. Mike thanked him with a firm handshake but said nothing more. He walked away slowly, like someone carrying the weight of the world. Keanu watched, thoughtful, unaware that this encounter would have much greater consequences than he could imagine. The next day, Keanu returned to the same cafe, curious to see if Mike would show up again. But he wasn't there. Not in the cafe, not on the sidewalk, nowhere. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Keanu discreetly asked the cafe staff, but no one knew anything. He even searched the nearby streets, looking in every corner, but to no avail. It affected him in a strange way. It wasn't common for him to get attached to strangers, but something about that conversation had left a mark on him. In the following weeks, Keanu continued to walk the streets of Los Angeles, always looking around, hoping to see that man sitting again, with his simple sign and deep gaze. But nothing. Mike seemed to have disappeared. Then one day, while aimlessly browsing the internet, Keanu came across a news article that made his heart race. Billionaire investor missing, found living on the streets of Los Angeles. He clicked, and there was the photo. Mike, the man he had taken to the cafe regardless of their bank account. Days later, Keanu received an anonymous call on his cell phone. A familiar voice simply said, "Thank you, we will meet." It was Mike, or rather, Michael Reynolds. They arranged to meet in a discreet park, and when Keanu arrived, he saw Mike, dressed simply, but now with a different look, more determined, more hopeful. Mike told him everything that had happened, the financial losses, the betrayals, the emotional collapse that led him to the streets. But he said something that stuck in Keanu's mind. "That coffee changed my life. You don't know what it means for someone to stop and listen, to look into my eyes as if I were someone important. You helped me remember that I was still human." Keanu listened in silence, moved. They talked for hours, and before saying goodbye, Mike handed Keanu a business card. On the back, there was a handwritten phrase, "Kindness is the bridge between worlds." Time passed, and the story spread. The media discovered the meeting between Keanu Reeves and the missing billionaire, and the news went viral. But Keanu, as always, maintained his discreet demeanor. When asked, he simply said, "I just did what anyone should do." For Keanu, the lesson was clear. Never underestimate the impact of a simple gesture. A conversation, a coffee, a look of empathy. All of this can be the difference between someone continuing to fight or giving up everything. Mike, for his part, rebuilt his life, but now with a different perspective. He began to fund shelters, help charities, and share his story as an example of overcoming adversity. And for those who hear this story today, the message is clear. You never know who is in front of you. It could be someone famous, it could be someone powerful, or it could be someone who just needs a chance. So, stop, look into their eyes, and listen. Because sometimes, the greatest act of heroism is simply being present.